Joseph Smith's First Vision, Part 2.
So aside from the eerie similarities between other accounts of heavenly visions and Joseph Smith's first visions, there are the differing accounts that were written at different times.
So Joseph Smith says the first vision occurred in 1820. The interesting thing is, being that it is a massive event that I would think he would want to share with other people given his nature, he didn't publish it until 1842. There were major church publications being written and shared at the time, and interestingly enough, the first vision wasn't shared in any of them.
There were a few different written accounts of this vision, but over the iterations of the account, many things changed, including who exactly appeared to him, which is the most damning thing to me. Joseph Smith himself wrote 4 of the accounts that the church recognizes, and nobody seems to have a problem with the discrepancies. Growing up Mormon, I turned 12 years old. I received this little pamphlet that they give to all of the youth called For the Strength of Youth. The pamphlet outlines a lot of the standards that you're supposed to follow as a youth to help you be spiritual and grow in the church. On things like your dress, the music and dance that you do, and a lot of other things like sexual purity. At the time, there was a lot of things that I liked media-wise that was contrary to the standards for the strength of youth. At the time, I felt guilty for liking these things, and even to this day, I get a lot of backlash on the kind of music that I listen to because it's, quote, dulling to the spirit. It was really sad because something that was so special to me and made me feel good was deemed as hurtful in other people's eyes.
Hit it, hit it, hit it, hit it, get it, get it, get it, get it. Ow, 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 show them girl, yeah, boom, boom, bow, bow, boom, 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 bow, 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 boom, boom, bow, 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 bow.
Hi guys, it's General Conference Weekend, so we figured we'd find some tweets and give them some ratings.
Okay, this one's pretty good. It's basically like the Mormon equivalent of saying, are you triggered, liberal? Also, bonus points for the hashtag Desnat. I give it a solid 7.
I would like to give this one like a -2 out of 10 because this is like just so stupid. Like, I don't even know where to begin with this one.
I wonder what this guy thinks about teachings of blood atonement, or the priesthood ban for black people, or marrying 14-year-olds as your plural wives. 11 out of 10.
These are just a few of our favorites. Stay tuned for more.
General Conference toxicity. Check it out. Pause to read. Yikers.
So the thing that stood out the most to me about this is the stop rehearsing your doubts with other doubters. Isn't that convenient? Stop putting yourself in communities where people might encounter that you're having a faith crisis, or that you might share that you're struggling, or people might validate how you're feeling.
Choose to believe and stay faithful, he says, but only go to faith-promoting sources to answer all of those questions, because we control the information that way.
People say to people that have left that you just go to these anti-communities seeking out this information because you know it'll validate what you're feeling. And that's just not true. We were looking for truth, and we found a community of people who also found the truth and found out that it wasn't what the church told us it was.
This is just going to be the ammo that people use to send to their unbelieving kids for the next 20 years.
Do you touch yourself too often? Do you think you have an addiction? Don't worry, the Mormon Church has some advice for you. These tips are from an official church pamphlet that was distributed in 1973. Number 1 is to not touch the intimate parts of your body ever, except during normal toilet processes.
If your friends also have a problem with touching themselves, definitely break off your relationships with them because they're a bad influence.
This is key. When you bathe, do not admire yourself in the mirror and only take 5 to 6 minutes to bathe.
When you go to bed, make sure you wear really tight clothing so you don't accidentally touch yourself at night.
Last but not least, if the temptation is overpowering, get out of bed and go in the kitchen and make yourself a snack, even if you're not hungry and despite your fears of gaining weight.
Or the boogeyman. If you're struggling with sexual purity, give these tips a go and let us know what you think. Behold, the Bible of Mormon Youth Indoctrination.
Let's take an in-depth look at this pamphlet that they give to 12-year-olds and up in the church and why it is so toxic. So let's start with the big one, sexual purity. You may have heard us mention it before, but it's actually written right here. Remember, this is written for 12-year-olds. The Prophet Alma taught that sexual sins are more serious than any other sin except murder or denying the Holy Ghost. Murder.
They also talk about how youth shouldn't frequently date the same person because that could lead to immorality. Also, you can't date until you're 16, and even when you're 16, you shouldn't be going on dates with less than one other couple because that could lead to immorality. Did they mention immorality?
You've heard us talk about tithing before. Yep, kids have to pay it too. There's even Mormon kids that pay it on their allowance. And your attitude is important in paying tithing. Pay it because you love the Lord. And guess what? Doesn't matter how old you are, you're still going to give your money to the church. So we should be live right now, but we're not. Because we started our live, and 5 minutes in, somebody reported us. We got banned. Now we're suspended, which is awesome. But I have news for whoever keeps doing this. We're not going anywhere. We're not going to stop. We have content on other platforms. We're just going to go film a YouTube video and update people on our Instagram. So you can report us all you want, but we're not going anywhere.
It'll get appealed.
It'll get appealed too. Like, we didn't violate community guidelines, but thanks for wasting everyone's time. So yesterday we talked about the For the Strength of Youth pamphlet, that is the guidelines and standards for those 12 and up in the church for how they should live their lives. Today I'm going to take you back to the 1965 version of this pamphlet, specifically telling women how to dress and groom themselves. Let's jump in. All right, girls, listen up. Here we go. Girls should dress to enhance their natural beauty and femininity. Clothes should be comfortable and attractive. That's right, attractive. And if you didn't already know, few girls or women look well in backless or strapless dresses. Apparently they make you look ungainly and show the bony structures of the body. Pants are not desirable attire for women shopping, in school, or at the library, in cafeterias or restaurants. Girls should always try to look feminine in their dress, and they should not dress like boys or give a masculine appearance. And women's hair is more becoming when it's natural. Oh, and no tight pants. Leggings? No way. Stupid shit Mormons say. Part 1.
Did you hear what the prophet said? The end is so close.
The temple ceremonies are sacred, not secret.
Well, that was just the prophet speaking as a man, not as the mouthpiece of God.
I couldn't see her garment lines, so she must be struggling with her testimony.
Once they realize what they're doing is wrong, they'll be back.
I was in line this morning getting my daily 32-ounce soda, and I saw her car pull into the Starbucks parking lot. So she must not be following the word of wisdom. Hi, I'm Lazy Learner.
I'm Lax Disciple.
We're so glad to have you here with us today.
Here's some resources that you can look at to become more like us. I think one of the most helpful things for me was the gospel topics essays.
Don't worry, you can elevate your lazy learner status by listening to hours upon hours of Mormon Stories podcast.
This one's for lax disciples only.
I'll be continuing my journey of lazy learning this week with this puppy.
Let's talk about the calling and election made sure, otherwise known as the second anointing. The second anointing was a really difficult thing, especially for Jordan, and was kind of a shelf-breaking item for her, just because it is really weird. Today we listened to an episode of Mormon Stories with Tom Phillips, who received his second anointing, and within a year or two after that, he left the church. There's not a lot of reading to be done on church sources, but essentially what's being done is, instead of being able to become a priestess or a priest unto the Most High God, you are anointed a priestess or priest and king unto the Most High God. This little phrase right here, confer godhood, I thought to be the most interesting. In the podcast, Tom Phillips mentioned that he was basically convinced that when this was going to happen, he would meet Jesus Christ. Ordinary people in the church aren't going to ever have this experience, and you're not supposed to talk about it. Also, pause on this one because Brigham Young sucks.
Someone on a live asked me to look at Joseph Smith's birth chart, so let's dive in. So first of all, Joseph Smith has a Capricorn sun, he's got an Aquarius moon, and his rising sign is in Cancer. So here's some interesting things about his birth chart. So Joseph's moon is also in his 8th house. And this is interesting because people with moons in the 8th house tend to not be able to find peace romantically or stability, and they're often looking or interested in other partners, more of a wandering eye. Venus is also in his 8th house, and that indicates that typically his love life is hidden in some sort of way. The sun sextiles Pluto, which gives him almost this magnetic attraction. People are drawn to him. He's almost hypnotic, and this leads to a strong temptation to be able to manipulate people. His moon also conjuncts Venus, which makes him a hella charmer, especially to women. His Neptune is also in Scorpio, which kind of draws him to magic and occult type things, which makes sense with his treasure digging.
Dumb shit we believed as Mormons. Part whatever.
3, I think?
In section 77 of the Doctrine and Covenants, Joseph Smith proclaims that the earth is going to be 7,000 years old by the time that the end of the world happens.
Just to clarify, this is coming from Mormon scripture.
You may be asking yourself, what? This can't be true. What about the dinosaurs? They certainly lived more than 7,000 years ago.
There are a couple of apologetic theories on how this works, but one of my favorites is that Satan came to Earth and hid dinosaur bones on the Earth to deceive people.
There are other theories saying that the dinosaur bones existed from the matter from which the Earth was created because it already existed beforehand. I think the most simple explanation would be that the Earth is not 6,000 years old. Last night while on a live, I went to grab my trusty triple combination to talk about something that the Mormon Church had changed in the Book of Mormon. While this is definitely not something that I discovered, many people know about this, I didn't realize that this change existed in the copy that I got because it was purchased for me for Christmas as a gift back in, I think, 2009. In my copy of the Book of Mormon, it says that the Lamanites are the principal ancestors of the American Indians. In the current edition, they say the Lamanites are among the ancestors of the American Indian. Now, we all know that the church does not cave to societal pressure, but I suppose when there is mounting evidence against the claim that the Book of Mormon makes about the Native Americans in America, I guess they don't want to look so bad when it comes to science.
You asked about the Mormon Vault. Let's take a look. The Mormon Vault is literally in the side of a mountain, and it's strong enough to withstand a nuclear blast. So the church says that they built this vault to contain, preserve, and protect microfilms that have to do with family history. There's also a few other things that they mentioned, like scriptures in every language published, leather-bound temple ordinance books from the 1960s, and a few other things. It is heavily guarded by security, so you can't just drive up and take a look at it, and it's not open to the public, but this is one of the pictures that we have of what the inside looks like.
There's a lot of speculation as to why it's so heavily guarded, and a lot of people say that it's because they have the gold plates, but that couldn't be possible because, one, the official narrative is that those gold plates were taken back into heaven by Moroni, and two, the 11 people who said they saw it actually did never really see it. They later on in life revealed that they saw it with their spiritual eyes, so...
This is a great question, so let's talk about this. So Mormons do believe that people who die are able to give consent in the afterlife, whether they want to have their work done or join the church in the afterlife or not.
So Mormons believe that after you die, you go to a kind of holding place called spirit prison or paradise. And those who went to spirit prison are those who are being baptized for so that they can get a chance to accept the gospel.
So in order for a member to perform these ordinances in the temple, for a person that's died within the last 110 years, they have to be the closest living relative or have permission from a closest living relative. However, proving you have permission isn't exactly the most sophisticated process, so it happens all the time even if people don't have permission. For example, they had to reiterate that you can't do work for celebrities or victims of the Holocaust. You can complain to the church that people are doing work for your family members, but there's really nothing you can do about it. However, if you'd like me to check to see if this was done for one of your family members, send me an email and I'll help you out.
Jordan is modeling our wonderful unisex fig leaf apron. It has a metal clasp as opposed to the traditional tying method and is worn only in the Mormon temple. So the reasoning behind this is because after Adam and Eve partake of the fruit in the endowment ceremony, the devil or Satan or Lucifer tells them that they should cover their nakedness after they realize that they are naked so that God won't see it. Some people are saying in the comments on our video that there's no green in the temple, and I don't know what to tell you. I'm not lying, I literally was married. Both of us were married wearing that apron, so.
Let's look at some embarrassing things I pinned on Pinterest when we were Mormon. This one's fun because kids don't have enough to do with school and homework and all of those things. We want to make them memorize more meaningful things like facts about the prophets.
When you run out of the primary answer of things that you're supposed to do on the Sabbath, go to the Sunday can.
This is a super fun one. I don't know what the hell I was thinking with this. Printing out pictures of the apostles and taping them to Easter eggs? For what? Why? I don't even know what to say about this one. And he's not wearing garments, so.
I don't know if these are supposed to be like those candles that have the saints on them or like bowling pins, but yeah.
If you've got a favorite Mormon indoctrinating kid activity, drop it in the comments. I want to hear about it. It's not a toga, it's McKay, and he's wearing the beautiful temple robes. They're made of a gorgeous unironed polyester and have these gorgeous little shoulder pleats and an easy clasp for doing and undoing in the temple.
So the robe is supposed to represent righteousness, purity, and authority in the priesthood. So when you first put on the robes, you wear it on the left shoulder, representing the lesser or Aaronic priesthood. And then they teach you the signs and tokens for that priesthood. Then at one point you have to move it and every other piece of clothing to the other side, representing the Melchizedek priesthood or higher priesthood, and they teach you the signs and tokens for that. It would be a lot better if they called it a toga though.
So it finally happened. We couldn't resign from the Mormon church as soon as we wanted to because McKay was still at a church school and we were waiting for his grades to be posted.
Near the end of the semester, we had some information leading us to believe that they knew about our TikTok account and they were trying to get me expelled.
So we knew we were facing likely excommunication or an ultimatum to resign. So we decided to take our power back from this awful corporation, and we decided that we were going to present them with an ultimatum. They could either let us resign without facing disciplinary counsel and excommunication, or we would share the entire process of excommunication and all the details with our platform. So upon realizing the predicament they're in, we got an email saying that they would send our information to church headquarters to resign our records from the Mormon church.
Some people have been saying today in our comments that the endowment ceremony, you can leave at any time if you don't want to continue. Well, let's take a quick look at that. Take a second to read this whole paragraph, but this last sentence right here is what I want to focus on. You may now make it known by raising your hand. This is implying that this is the one and only opportunity that you will have to withdraw, and any time after this is unacceptable. Not to mention that when you receive the endowment for yourself, you are going with a escort who is probably someone you're related to or a member of the ward that you know. If you choose to withdraw, you also have to handle the pressure of walking past all the rows of temple patrons on your way out. They put you in the front row for a reason. There's absolutely no informed consent in the temple. You do not know what you're agreeing to beforehand, and if you do contrary after, then you're going to be damned.
So therapy hit me right in the feels today, and due to that, I don't have anything not emotionally loaded or really constructive to say. The last few days, I have been sitting with what led up to the excommunication of Natasha Helfer. The gaslighting, the manipulation, and the spiritual violence used against Natasha Helfer during this whole process is a perfect example of how the church views and treats women. So there's room for differing opinions in the church, but don't talk about them. The church doesn't care about its people and improving the lives of others because Natasha was speaking as loud as she could to say, your policy is damaging, your policy leads to suicide, your policy is harmful, and they still won't listen.
Every good tree bring forth good fruit, and every corrupt tree bring forth evil fruit. Normally I wouldn't take the time to respond to such a smug comment, but I see you all over ExMormon TikTok, and I don't like you. You say that if I wanted to know what was going on in the temple, I could just ask a member that had gone through the temple. Most of my family members went through the temple before 1990. This is just a flavor of the penalty that you would have for revealing the secrets of the temple. They go on to say that your tongue would be cut out, your throat would be slit, your loins would be torn asunder, etc., etc. Now this is the internet, anything could be changed, right? Good thing we got a BBC interview with Tom Sweeney right here when he was asking if Mitt Romney would rather his throat be slit than reveal the secrets of the temple. To which Jeffrey Holland responded, "No, that's simply not true. We don't teach that anymore." This is the kind of gaslighting that the church encourages its members to do. It is absolutely a secret. Why else would they have had those penalties before?
All right, everyone, you asked, we delivered. This is the men's hat that they wear in the temple, also known as the bonnet or the chef's hat. Do notice that it has an entirely flat top. It also has what they call a bow on this side. Why that's a bow, I'm not really sure. And then it also has this little tail thing that they've recently removed because no one knows why it was there.
So the idea of the hat is not exclusive to Mormonism, but in the Old Testament is kind of where it's based. Apparently the top is flat because in Exodus, the hat described by the Lord is supposed to have a crown that go on top of it. So it's suggesting that you will be crowned with glory eventually. It also suggests lifting one's capabilities to do Jesus' work through his power, and also that a man's thoughts are what he is. We get this question a lot, and we want to explain it that way people have an idea. There's two primary ways that we would suggest trying to do it. The first goes through your local bishop, and we can show you how to find your local bishop if you haven't been to church in a really long time. The other one goes through quitmormon.org, which is a really direct way to do it, but the wait times are extremely long, so if it's something you want to get done quick.
Okay, so if you need to find your bishop, the first thing you're going to do is go to churchofjesuschrist.org/maps. So in the top box, all you need to do is enter your address and hit the search bar, and it will give you the ward for your location. So you're going to pick the ward. Right here it would be Ammon 25th, for example. We don't live here, this is an example. Once you click on that, at the bottom here, you'll see you have the bishop's phone number to reach out to. There are sample resignation letters on the web that you can find if you search them, but all you need to do is say that you want to resign your records and give them your information. Or go to quitmormon.org.
Buckle up, this is a good one. Here's a little tidbit from a manual that was scanned into BYU's database from the Young Woman's Journal. You can read right here that as far back as 1837, the prophet Joseph Smith taught that the inhabitants of the moon were approximately 6 feet in height, dressed like the Quakers, and lived to be about 1,000 years old.
But hold up, it gets better. Joseph Smith's father gave a patriarchal blessing where he told someone that they would preach the gospel, but not just anywhere, not somewhere cool, on the moon. Let me just reiterate that for you. They said that they would preach the gospel to the inhabitants of the moon. Take that in.
If you want to read the whole thing, it's right there.
Let's look at some either former Mormons or currently active Mormons that you might know. You can't talk about famous Mormons without talking about Donnie and Marie. These two actually led to a surge of investigators in the church when they started getting famous.
You couldn't pick him out in a crowd, but you've definitely seen his book. Stephen R. Covey was a Mormon.
Oh, Ted, what a fun one. He was actually baptized while he was killing people, so that's fun.
This one's for all those lifelong emos. Dallin Weeks, former bassist for Panic at the Disco and current frontman of I Don't Know How, But They Found Me.
This one was new to me. Butch Cassidy. He actually came here with his parents as pioneers to Utah.
Dina Jane, one of the members of Fifth Harmony, was also a Mormon.
And last but definitely not least, Brendan Urie, lead singer of Panic at the Disco, it was also raised Mormon.
was against birth control.
So in the last few years, Mormons have kind of reformed their ideas about birth control and it's more accepted now. However, their major insurance company still won't cover it.
This is under the exclusions section of a DMBA policy that we had last year. Mainly this part right here saying that it is excluded, which means you wouldn't normally get it.
They say they'll cover it for some exceptions, but as someone who has tried to pursue those exceptions, let me tell you, they don't happen. The church will cover things like IVF, but the donor has to be the person's spouse. They will not cover if you're using a surrogate or somebody else's lovely things. Also, fun fact, up until recently, this has been changed, but this was the stance beforehand, that artificial inseminations of single sisters is not approved, and they might have to have a disciplinary council over it. The church also discourages all forms of surgical sterilization, and they also strongly discourage selling sperm or eggs.
And they wonder why people call it a cult. Some people don't like what we say on here, and instead of just scrolling along, they gotta leave a comment.
So let's take a look at some of our favorites. This is one of my all-time favorites. I don't think I've ever been called a waste of life force before, so this one was special.
I would like to thank this person for their genuine concern, and their comment really swayed me into thinking differently about the church.
Apparently what we're doing here on TikTok requires an exorcism. Not sure about that. Or counseling, which is good because I'm in school to be a therapist, so that works out.
Damn, whatever happened to stay in the boat? Stay in the boat. Oh, you gotta stay in the boat. It definitely is a better place if you don't like luscious locks like mine.
Lie and say they didn't have it, and they actually have the damn thing. So,
Yeah,
So they do have in your mountain temple, the stones exist.
in the vault.
In the vault.
I'm
yeah.
assuming that's where they keep it.
Yeah, it
We'll
might
talk
be in a
about-
museum,
we'll talk
but
about
I'm
that.
pretty sure it's in the vault.
Yeah.
Is it? And what is it? Just a straight up rock, or is it?
It's just a little brown
just,
rock.
Yeah, it's kind of got like little darker swirlies. It's just a rock. It's nice and smooth.
How do we know it's not petrified horse shit? How do we know that?
I think that would be a better. It couldn't be dinosaur. A lot of people are like, why are Mormons always so rich? And I don't think it's really a common thing, but it is kind of strange. I remember I had this Sunday school teacher who said that being rich meant that you had the biggest TV. And if you had the biggest TV, then all the kids would want to come over to your house to play instead of your kids going to someone else's house to play. Which then meant that you controlled the media they consumed and you were able to basically influence their kids rather than having your kids influenced by their parents and their teachings, which could somehow be wrong. So some people have this kind of odd logic behind it. I don't get it.
Today we are talking about some of the differences in expectations and roles and physical appearance of men and women in the Mormon Church. So here is McKay and I's lovely little horrible drawings of the differences that we've come up with. The full video will be on YouTube tonight, but here are some of our favorites. One of my favorites from Ezra Taft Benson, that little gem. Women are divinely ordained to homemaking, motherhood, and companionship.
My boy K. Packer, talking about men should be the breadwinner of the household and the head, even though I've never been the breadwinner.
Another special one from M. Russell Ballard. Don't wander around looking like men. Put on a little lipstick now and then and look a little charming. It's that simple. So if you aren't married, come on, it's that simple. One of my favorites. We don't even need to expand on this one. Submit to your husbands. That's all I need to say. That's doctrine. Don't miss out on the whole video. Coming tonight. We've got the link in bio. Stupid shit Mormons say.
Parte dos. We love the sinner, but we abhor the sin.
Nothing looks as good as modesty feels.
Remember who you are and what you stand for.
We don't worship Joseph Smith.
All those problematic prophets, they were just products of their time.
You don't touch the private or sacred parts of another person's body unless you're married.
Also, don't arouse those emotions in your own body.
The prophet would be struck down before he led the church astray.